All right, here we go, folks. Let's do this. All right, so before we begin, I'm gonna let everybody know to pay attention. Listen, I understand the subject matter is foreign to your ears, but so is everything else. That's the key part about deception. Deception works in a way so you never know the truth. So let's bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for anointing this messenger with this message. Let the seed fall on good ground. Let thy word not return unto thee void, but let it accomplish that which you please and prosper in the thing where you sent it. In your precious Son's name we pray. All right. So last week we spoke about the rock. I likened him to a wise man and who built his foundation upon a rock. He couldn't move. He didn't blow around with the waves. He was unshakable. Versus the man who built his house on the sand, who moved around. And we showed the correlation between the sea and the land. Well, we're going to do that again today, folks. So we're going to discuss a topic that is very pertinent to how this deception has played itself out. We're going to do a sort of a history lesson today. And I'm going to show you via their laws, their codes, their statutes, that everything I've said is true, just like I showed you all income taxes are voluntary last week. I'm going to also show you this week via the USC code that no labor of a man can be taxed. Did you know that's in the USC code? Any of you? Why not? Here we go. Let's begin our journey. The serpent cast out of his mouth water. Last week we discussed the rock. We will this week look into the whore that sits atop many waters and how that ancient enemy has made the whole world wonder. And what does the word wonder mean? Wonder is to be astonished. You really don't know what it is. You don't know who or what are doing these things. Why are vaccines for children mandatory? Below the age of 7, before the minds develop? Why is genetically modified foods? We're the only one of the only countries on Earth where you can walk into a grocery store and they label something organic. Well, hello, folks. Everything's supposed to be organic. We're the only country in the world that do these things. Put fluoride in your water. Things of this nature. Why is it like this? Well, let's discuss that today. Knowledge will forever govern ignorance. And the people who mean to be their own governors must arm themselves with the power which knowledge provides or gives. James Madison. Let's get this thing going. Discussion first. I had a few bigger, decent-sized YouTube channels last week come out and do a hit piece on me and everything else, saying I was a cult leader and everything else. But I want to tell people right now, you don't send me that stuff. It doesn't bother me. I ask nothing, I want nothing, and we're going to continue on. This information isn't for everybody, and those who want to protect their lies that they believe in, they're not going to like me very much. Many of you informed me this week of the attacks aimed towards me, and I want to let everyone know right now there's 0 point sending me any of that. If it is something to correct me like Brother Mark Melbourne did and on his YouTube channel, that is wonderful. I'll go watch it, and I will actually change my viewpoint. But I'm not here for the YouTube drama and the social media drama. What I do is freely I received and freely I have given. I'm not looking for monetary benefits from anybody, anything like that. The truth is for free to those who are willing to accept it. Revelations 14:12. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of Yahuwah and the faith of Yahusha. Revelation 22:14, blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have a right to the tree of life, and may enter in through the gates into the city. Well, that's kind of funny, folks, because the law's dead, but right there in Revelation, your entry into the tree of life is by what? Anybody? The law. Let's ask this question right now. Law, real laws, laws of nature, laws that govern things, do they ever change? Can they change? Real laws? No. The same yesterday, today, and for when? Forever. We have been given the perfect law of liberty and instead chosen to be ruled by the tyrannical systems of men. Then those brothers and sisters will continue to give honor and glory to the persons, the fictions of law, personas, imagining the vain thing of men. I'm not without fault, as all men are fallible. But one thing that I know to be true is the rock of our redemption through Yahusha is our grace. That's what the grace is for. Okay? And the rock of our true liberty from men in the ancient system of pledging is through the unchanging law of the Father. Laws can't change and will never be theories. Let us uncover some concepts first. So, folks, we're going to walk through these concepts first. And what I want you to do is pay attention to the words. Everybody blows through these things, right? And knowledge reveals the depth of the Scriptures. That's why Hosea 4:6 says, my people are destroyed from a lack of what? Knowledge. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject who? You who rejected knowledge. It's just that important. The truth is that important. You can't obtain the truth without what? Knowledge. You can't be wise as a serpent without what? Knowledge. I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be wise as serpents, harmless as doves. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. You know, this concept right here, we're going to focus in on this water concept today. And there's a reason for it, because the water in the seas and things of that nature seem to be coming into a lot of focus. Remember last week, you either built your house on the rock or you were in the sea. You were on the sand, right? Well, pay attention. And the earth helped the woman. Who helped the woman? The land, the earth. And the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. So we know who that dragon is. It's the old serpent. It's Leviathan. We know this, right? We understand this. And the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed. This is the bride of Christ. This is Yahusha's seed, which keep the commandments. Here's that terms and conditions of the covenant and the contract, right? The remnant of the seed is those who keep the commandments of Yahuwah and have the testimony of Yahusha the Christ. Can you keep one or the other and still be there? Nope, you got to have both. That's the terms and the conditions of the contract. That's what covenant means. Many different interpretations of this set of scripture I have been made aware of, but the funny thing about the scriptures is that each level of knowledge obtained reveals the more complex dynamics within. And let's get this ball rolling, folks. I'm going to try to get through it fast today in a decent time. And we got a lot of people here. But overall, I want people to understand the concept. Revelation 13:1. They're tearing down the walls in there. And I stood upon the sand of the sea. And I saw a beast rise up out of the sea. All right, so in prophecy, what is a beast? Kingdoms of men. Systems of men. Having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth. This is the second beast. And he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. So at one point, this beast coming out of the land looked like a lamb, but it eventually spoke as a dragon. I wonder if we can pinpoint who that is today. We will. And he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. And he deceiveth them that dwell on the earth. How does deception work? Do you know that you're deceived when you're deceived? You have no clue. That's the whole point of deception. You believe a lie. That's how deception works. And of course, when you believe the lie, what the next thing is the cognitive dissonance. What happens when somebody does bring you the truth? They therefore become your enemy because they tell you the truth. By the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast. We know what the image is, which had the wound by sword and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image. That's the vain thing. That's the vanity of vanities. Focus of men. To give life unto the image of the beast. That the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. All right, hold on. Let's make sure. So if you didn't worship the image of the beast, you ended up dead. So if you did not worship the kingdoms of men, for that system of men, you ended up dead. You got killed. Because that's what a beast is in prophecy. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand. That's your works and your forehead. That's your mind. Okay? And that no man might buy or sell. So let's compound this. So the system of men controls the money. Do we understand that? The systems of men control the money. That's how you know it's a systems of men. Save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. The beast is a kingdom that eventually sets up on land, where once it looked like a lamb. Deception is the tool, money, mammon, the enslavement. Can we understand that concept? Okay, well, let's move on. The whore that sits atop many waters. And there came one of the 7 angels which had 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither. I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. Well, hold up. We're making correlations here. We're connecting dots. We're in 3 different chapters in Revelations, and we're talking about water a lot, and the sea a lot. Are y'all noticing this? Are y'all paying attention yet? With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. We're not focusing on that part of the day, and the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Now, this will probably be the 4th time that in this 3 years that we have been together, that I have been revealed another clue to who Mystery Babylon is. Y'all have been with me for every one of them. And this is how truth is revealed as you obtain knowledge. As you become a true seeker of figuring out who that is. And that's that Mystery Babylon. Let us build our case. Y'all ready for y'all's history lesson? Well, let's do it. All right, how many men and women in here know why we revolted against King George in England when the revolution happened and we so-called got a country in 1776? What was it for? Mama, you said earlier it was for taxes, right? All right, anybody else? Y'all college kids? Y'all know? Zach, you know? You know? Candy? Why don't y'all know? Why don't you know?
I forgot to Google it.
Well, it's not about... No, listen.
That would have helped me, at least. I would have known something.
Why don't you know?
I don't know.
We'll start reading.
Google it.
The Congress met it. This is from the Journals of the Continental Congress. I'm going to answer the question why you don't know.
Okay.
And the truth is going to reveal to you why you don't know. Because in the 1930s, the federal government took over all public education centers, and from that point forward, it was not about educating anybody. It was about making what? John D. Rockefeller said it best. I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of what? You know it? Workers. If you know the truth, then guess what? The system isn't about freedom. This system is about obedience. All right, the Congress met on October 14th, 1774, and I tell people, please, for all means, go check and make sure I pulled this up correctly. Please. The Congress met according to adjournment and resuming the consideration of the subject under debate, came into the following resolution. And this is what happened. King George claimed a power of right to bind the people of the colonies in North America by statute. Oh man, that statute, huh? In all cases whatsoever, and for carrying the said power into execution, has by some statutes expressly taxed, that's one part of the problem, the people of the said colonies, and by divers other statutes under various pretenses, but in fact, for the purpose of raising a revenue, has imposed rates and duties payable in the said colonies, established a board of commissioners, and extended the jurisdiction of the courts of admiralty therein for the collection of such rates and duties. And whereas some of the said statutes are also intended to render all judges in the said colonies dependent upon the crown only, and whereas since the said accession, statutes have been made for quartering and supplying troops to be kept in the said colonies. And whereas since the conclusion of the last war, orders have been issued by the king that the authority of the commander-in-chief and under him the brigadier general in the northern and southern departments and all military affairs shall be supreme and must be obeyed by the troops as such in all the civil governments in America. And here we go. What is it about? He had a standing army where it was imposing rates and duties, and the courts of admiralty. Anybody here know what the courts of admiralty are? Anybody?
It's a commerce court.
Y'all ready to embark on this journey? Listen, folks, what we're going to learn today is serious. It's real. It's not me making something up. This is the truth about the country that you live in. This is the truth about the system that has been, the wool that's been pulled over your eyes. Let us continue. All right, so we go to the Declaration of Rights of 1765. When did this nation become a country? Supposedly.
1776.
All right, so what are we doing? We're trying to get redress at this point. We're trying to force King George and them to stop oppressing the people. Do any of y'all know what was happening? Because we were under admiralty courts, that meant there was no what? Common law courts, no trial by jury. It was tribunals. Military admiralty is military rule. All right, so let's read this. That the late Act of Parliament entitled an Act for granting and applying certain stamp duties and other duties in the British colonies and plantations in America by imposing taxes on the inhabitants of these colonies, and the said act and several other acts by extending the jurisdiction of the courts of admiralty beyond its ancient limits. What's beyond its ancient limits, folks? Where's the maritime law? Where's the maritime law end, or supposed to end? At the high water mark. It's the rules of the sea. Where's it at? It's on land. Have a manifest tendency to subvert the rights and liberties of the colonists. And we can read all this if you want. But it says it over and over. Here, let's read this last piece. Lastly, that it is indispensable duty of these colonies to the best of sovereigns, to the mother country, and to themselves to endeavor, by a loyal and dutiful address to His Majesty and humble application to both Houses of Parliament, to procure the repeal of the Act for granting and applying certain stamp duties, of all clauses of any other acts of Parliament whereby the jurisdiction of the Admiralty is extended as aforesaid, and of the other late acts for the restriction of the American commerce. All right, folks, you think it's still about taxes? That would be the first Congress of the American colonies in opposition to the tyrannical acts of the British Parliament. All right? Well, let's do this, folks. You ever read your Declaration of Independence? Huh?
Yes.
Well, here we go. We're going to read it. We'll read a piece of it together. We're going to read a piece of it together. Remember, I've shown y'all time over time again He who does not know his rights or claim them, does he have any rights? Why not? That's right. Very good, Betty. She said, because you don't know him, by the way, out there. We're talking about the he at the beginning is King George, by the way. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount in payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. He has affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us. Hold up, folks. Can y'all believe that what we're reading right here is the Declaration of Independence of what we couldn't have, and we have it here today? That's kind of funny. Do we have standing armies? Do we have army outposts in times of supposed peace? Peace, peace, they say, but there will be no peace. For protecting them by mock trial, for imposing taxes on us without our consent. That's kind of funny. You owe your share. That's what you're told. For depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury. This jury thing is going to be real big as we continue forward. I'm going to prove in the next coming studies that the reason why the number 12 was supposed to be your jury is a specific number. Because how many apostles was with Christ? How do you identify an admiralty court with a jury versus a common law jury? You had 12 juries for the real lawful jury, 6 for admiralty. And that means the judge is the final say no matter what. And here we go. This is the Declaration of Independence. For depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas. What is beyond sea? That means they actually are transporting them to other lands. This is that unwarranted jurisdiction. This is the beast of the sea getting on land. Y'all seeing what I'm talking about here? Not just yet, but we're going to get there. For abolishing the free system of English laws. What was the free system of English laws, folks? That was the system of common law built upon the principles of what? The Bible. Here it is right there. Not the admiralty law, the law of the sea, the law of the land. For abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government. Arbitrary government would be your admiralty jurisdiction. And enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument of introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies. Okay, folks, so we saw the 1774. We saw 1776. 75, and now we have 1776. We see that this jurisdiction, admiralty law, was a big problem, wasn't it? Okay. Now we have to define what is admiralty law and what is this unwarranted jurisdiction. Let's read right here. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war on us. Oh, that's kind of funny because in 1933 we were deemed enemies of the state by the United States federal government in the Trading with the Enemy Act. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burned our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. And it goes on and on. Let's see it one more time. They keep stating what's wrong. Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here. They were running from that law. They come here to establish a new land built on biblical principles. Let's read admiralty, right from Black's Law Dictionary. A court which has a very extensive jurisdiction of maritime causes, civil and criminal. Controversies arising out of acts done upon or relating to the sea, and questions of prize. Hey, folks, that's a little tricky word there, that prize. How many of y'all, what's a prize, guys? Anybody? Well, y'all should know by now that words in the law have a totally different meaning than words you think that you've been taught. We're going to get to that. It is properly the successor of the consular courts, which were emphatically the courts of merchants and seagoing persons, established in the principal maritime cities on the revival of commerce after the fall of the Western Empire, to supply the want of tribunals that might decide causes arising out of maritime commerce. Also, the system of jurisprudence relating to and growing out of the jurisdiction and practice of the admiralty courts. The jurisdiction of the admiral and the administration of the admiralty law proper, the local maritime law, as it became a judicial function, has passed into the hands of the courts, Renew versus U.S. D.C., and we're going to prove that. We're going to prove that admiralty law is operating here today, right now. Now, why is that? How did the beast from the sea get back up on land? How did it happen? Do you still believe it is about taxes? Let's read some maxims of law. Benjamin Franklin said, lady asked him after they did the Constitution, she said, what kind of government did you give us? And Benjamin Franklin's reply was what, Mama?
It is a republic if you can keep it.
Why did he say that?
Because he didn't know whether you could.
They already knew. And I'm going to prove that today. Any of y'all ever read Article 3, Section 2 of the United States Constitution? Has anybody read anything about what grants them rights in this country? Anybody?
I don't think so.
I read the Constitution.
Well, I did too, but yeah.
Well, it's kind of rough.
The law of nature and nature's law.
Well, that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But unless you know the language within there, we're going to read Article 3, Section 2 together today, folks. There's a reason we are doing this. All right. The laws serve the vigilant, not those who sleep upon their rights. Relief is not given to such as sleep on their rights. And this goes, you can take that back to Proverbs. The slothful will not be able to earn their keep. Those who want to be led around. Those who won't decide to pick up the knowledge and be their own. Well, let's talk about Leviathan right here. Folks, I'm trying to draw a correlation here to the importance of the sea and what comes out of the sea. We did liken him to a wise man that built his house upon a rock last week, and him who built his house upon the sand, which the sand is of the sea. Job 4:1. Canst thou draw out Leviathan with a hook? Well, if you got to draw him out with a hook, where is he?
In the sea.
Or his tongue with a cord which thou lettest down? Psalm 74:14. Thou breakest the heads of Leviathan in pieces, and gavest him to be meat to the people inhabiting the wilderness. 104:26. And you notice that he was meat. Where? On land. 104:26. There go to the ships. There is that what? Leviathan. Whom thou hast made to pay therein. Isaiah 27:1. And that day Yahuwah with his sore and great and strong sword shall punish Leviathan, the piercing serpent, even Leviathan, that crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the what?
In the sea.
Oh, I'll be doggone it. You got to be lying to me that it's all right there written for you to see it. You got to be kidding me. There's no way little old Brandon Sibley can figure this out. It is imperative to know the truth, my friends. John 8:32, and we're going to compound this. And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. John 8:44, you are of your father, the devil, and the lust of your father you will do. He was a murderer from the beginning and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. So how important is the truth? You've got two different ones. You can be free, or you can be over here where you abode not in the truth. Let's read U.S. Code Title 15, Commerce and Trade, Chapter 1. Let's read this little yellow thing right here. Let's read that together. The labor of a human being is not a commodity or an article of commerce. Do you even know what that means? It means it can't be taxed. Why is it written down? Here's the fact, folks. As we're going to continue going through today, I'm going to continue showing you U.S. codes and everything else. We're going to go see without a doubt that the admiralty courts, the courts of the sea, is what's ruling here in this country today, and that there is no rule of law. It's actually lawlessness. And I can guarantee you, I could talk to about 15 or 20 different tax men right there, and they wouldn't even know these codes. Why? They're just doing their jobs. Men have this inherent ability to lie to themselves, a need to protect the lies that give them comfort. Usually this is to comfort their own belly and the lifestyle they choose to live here in this realm. They write the truth in their codes, and I'm talking about them. It is up to you to figure it out. The beast of the sea still works by the commands of the Father. If you have not a love of the truth, you will never find it. Look, listen, folks. It is imperative to know the truth, but somehow this 9th grade dropout, and I'm not pulling my chain, has been able to uncover and learn more stuff just by reading. Why do you think most people don't read today? Nor can they comprehend what they're reading.
Because they don't read.
That's right. Just go stick your face. All right, here we go, folks. Let's do this together. Article 3, Section 2. We're gonna prove that there's 3 jurisdictions according to the Constitution. Okay, 3 of them. All right, and we're gonna prove it by Article 3, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution. All right, let's figure out what those are together. The judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and equity. Now, what's the first law? Law, real law, is common law. Okay? What is common law? Anybody? Cannot be a crime unless there's a what? An injured party. That's what real law is. Equity is civil law. Civil law gets to compelled performance. Okay? That's what civil law is. It compels you to perform. They pass a statute. They say everybody puts on the seatbelt now. Everybody must wear a seatbelt. But here's the problem with compelled performance through civil law. It what? Has no criminal penalty. So there's the first 2. Common law, which is real law, which is do unto your brother as thou shalt do unto thee. Okay? And then equity, which is civil law. Okay, so we got those 2. Everybody's got that. All right. So you want to know how the snake slithered into the Constitution? Y'all want to see how? Y'all ready to see how? Because there was already usurpers within the framers. And we're going to see this right here. Arising under this Constitution, the laws of the United States and treaties made, or which shall be made under their authority, to all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers, and consuls. Hold on. We're going into something. You notice that all these other people are what? Government employees. To all cases admiralty. and maritime jurisdiction, to controversies to which the United States shall be a party, to controversies between two or more states, between a state and the citizens of another state, between citizens of different states, between citizens of the same state claiming lands under grants of different states, and between a state of the citizens thereof and foreign states, citizens or subjects. All right, so let's identify the three jurisdictions. You had real law, you had equity, and you had admiralty. Admiralty law was for what? Commerce and government employees. Well, let's see what happened here. Remember that, Mama, you said something about 1938? Mm-hmm. It was kind of funny that you brought that up. Because after the Depression, the United States and every single man, woman, and child that lived here was signed over as surety for the debt of this nation. We're going to prove it. We're going to continue to prove it. September 16th, 1938. Federal rules. Hold on. I want y'all to see where I'm getting this stuff from. You see this? Federal Judicial Center. Okay? I'm not getting this from Johnny Blowjoe's blog somewhere. This is Federal Judicial Center. This is over here. This is the Cornell Law Institute. This is written in their codes. All right, on September 16, 1938. In 1938, pursuant to its authority under the Rules Enabling Act of 1934, the Supreme Court enacted uniform, put the brakes on, Uniform Commercial Code. UCC is what? Worldwide. Law Merchant, Admiralty Law. Hold on. For the procedure for the federal courts. Among the changes wrought by the rules was the elimination the federal court's separate jurisdiction. Hold up, folks. They just eliminated the other jurisdictions. Over suits and equity, a centuries-old system of English jurisprudence in which judges base decisions on general principles of fairness and situations where rigid application of common law rules would have brought about injustice. Under the new rules, suits in equity and suits at common law were grouped together under the term civil action. So what's the rule of law here in the United States?
Commercial code.
Admiralty courts. Stick with me, folks. We just started. Are you starting to pay attention yet? Do you feel like paying attention?
Don't ask that question. That's not good. Don't ask that question.
Have I made it simple enough for you to follow along? Is a better question. I mean, that's the purpose, is to make it simple enough to follow along. All right, let's do this. Let's back up and punt real quick. United States fought a war, revolted from an oppressive government who was running admiralty maritime laws in this country. They revolted for that unwarranted jurisdiction, and within 150 years, that same jurisdiction was back in place, which is the law of the sea, the whore that sits atop the many waters. Is that simple enough? Well, let's go read some more of their codes, right? And show you that ignorance is their tool to enslave us. So all law has to have remedy and recourse. So let me show you how this system works. Brandy goes out and gets a ticket tomorrow or whatever, or he goes and bumps a tree. The very first thing that you're going to do is say, I got to go get a lawyer. Right? That's the programming, is you have to go get a lawyer. Well, he who doesn't assert or know his rights has what? Lost them.
That's what?
Has lost them.
Lost
And a lawyer is an officer of the what? He's an officer of the court. All right, so let's do this. The remedies provided by the Uniform Commercial Code must be liberally administered to the end that the aggrieved party may be put in as good as a position as if the other party had fully performed, but neither consequential or special damages nor penal damages may be had except as specifically provided in the Uniform Commercial Code or by other rule of law. So let me break that down, what was just said there. They're not going to tell you any remedies because it is up to you to figure it out. That's your UCC code 1-305. Let's go to 1-306. Waiver or renunciation of claim or right after breach. A claim or right arising out of an alleged breach. What's a breach? We're talking about ships, buddy. Your rights have been breached. Right in the middle. Maybe discharge. What's discharge? You're pushing the water back out. Yeah. You've had a breach. There's water coming in. The only way to discharge it, in whole or in part, without consideration by agreement. You know what the consideration is, right? Of the aggrieved party in an authenticated record. Discharge is a generic term. Its principal species are rescission, release, accord, satisfaction, performance, judgment, composition, bankruptcy, merger. Did y'all ever know that discharge meant that? The word discharge. As applies to demands, claims, right of action, encumbrances, to discharge the debt or claim is to extinguish it, to annul its obligatory force, to satisfy it. And here also the term is generic, thus a debt and mortgage a legacy. Did you know discharge had to do with your debts? Come on, folks. So if they breach your rights, let me break that down for you. In simplistic terms, if they breach your rights, if you don't discharge it, become the belligerent claim, you don't have any rights. UCC 1-307, prima facie evidence by third-party documents. A document in due form purporting to be a bill of lading, policy or certificate of insurance, official waiters or inspector certificate, consular invoice, or any other document authorized or required by the contract to be issued by a third party is prima facie. That means on its face. That means every time you go sign that document, you sign the ticket, what is the evidence presented in court?
Your signature.
The instrument is the evidence. UCC 1-308, performance or acceptance under reservation of rights. This is pretty important right here. So what I've showed you is that it's all about fraud, but why do they have to write it all down? If they didn't write it all down, the whole system would be based on what? Well, it'd be based on fraud. It's still deceit. It's still trickery and fraudulent conversion. But their system has to have rules for engagement. You have to have rules and procedures. Just like, listen to me, most men and women are going to walk into every courtroom in this United States and walk in there talking about their constitutional rights. You don't have any constitutional rights. And as such, you should have read your Constitution. You should also read the Uniform Commercial Code, and you should also read the IRS Tax Code. And you should also read every single document that you sign. And the reason for that is because when you sign a document, that is prima facie evidence that you've agreed to the contract, the terms and stipulations of that contract. And it is evidence, that's the point of me putting 307, evidence to the fact that you have agreed to it, whether you know about it or not. Now, what's the recourse? You see, a party that with the explicit reservation of rights performs or promises performance or assents to performance in a manner demanded or offered by the other party does not thereby prejudice the rights reserved. Such words as without prejudice, under protest, or the like are sufficient. And I want to add this, V.C, V coetus, abbreviated to VC, V.C. is a Latin term. The website Wikipedia cites the definition of V coetus as constrained by force, used when forced to sign or else. And you can also do the ellipsis. That's the 3 dots in front of your name that lets you know that you're under duress. And it nullifies anything done under duress. So you get out there, get pulled over by Johnny Law officer who believes he's a servant of the law, and there is no law in this country. And he goes, well, you've got a 55 mile per hour speeding ticket and you were doing 56. If you want to reserve your rights, you better learn UCC 1-308 and the multiple ways to reserve your rights.
You need to print that one out for us. That's one I need.
Let me go back. Where do we get the word federal? Anybody? Because if you go read the Articles of Confederation, or if you go read the Declaration of Independence, you'll see the word national everywhere. What's the difference between national and federal? Well, let's read it from Old French, feudal. From medieval Latin, feodalis. From feudum, feudum, fevum, fief, fee. From Frankish, fehu, cattle, ondum, property, fee. From Proto-Germanic, fehu, cattle. It's more at fee. That's what federal means. It's a feudal. Feudal. You're at war. Let's look at Lysander Spooner. Any government that is its own judge of and determines authoritatively for the people what are its own powers over the people is an absolute government, of course. It has all the powers that it chooses to exercise. There's no other, or at least no more accurate definition of a despotism than this. Now let me ask y'all folks, y'all been watching the Trump fiasco for about 2 weeks. How many of y'all paid attention what really happened while that impeachment process was going on? See if anybody knows. What really happened? What happened during this time while they played this circus on the American people that they were really going to impeach Trump and everybody's running around here going crazy? What really happened? You know? The Patriot Act was extended again. Lo and behold, the Democrats and the Republicans in the House and the Senate can agree on that the Patriot Act needed to be extended. Did you know that?
I knew it was something because he didn't really get impeached.
Did you know that? No.
I knew it was up for extension.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing how these two seemingly polar opposites always agree to take more liberty and freedom. Don't you think that's kind of funny? If they were just retards or idiots, every now and then they would do something in our benefit. That is never the case. Alex de Tocqueville, I am deeply convinced that any permanent, regular, administrative system whose aim is to provide for the needs of the poor will breed more miseries than it can cure, will deprave the population that it wants to help and comfort, will dry up the sources of savings, will stop the accumulation of capital, retard the development of trade, and will benumb a human industry. When y'all think that was written, that was back in the 1700s. Why? Because it's all, listen, folks, what has been, what's the end of that? Will be again. It just does like this, folks. And listen to me, you young folks in here. You won't live to see this country make it. And you better plan accordingly and not make the same mistakes those before you. This country will not make it. That's a fact. As morally depraved as this society is, it cannot sustain the trajectory of moral degeneracy that is this country. Now I'm going to show y'all what a prize is. Matter of fact, let's do this together. I want to show y'all this. All right, just so y'all know that I'm not making stuff up, that I don't just go grab this out of my butt. So let's do this together. We're in U.S. Code, Title 28, the Judiciary and Judiciary Procedure, Part 4, Jurisdiction and Venue, Chapter 85, District Courts, Jurisdiction, Section 1333, Admiralty, Maritime, and Prize Cases. The district court shall have original jurisdiction exclusive of the courts of the states. That state is the de facto corporation in the District of Columbia. Any civil case of admiralty or maritime jurisdiction, saving to suitors in all cases, all other remedies to which they are otherwise entitled. Hold on, put the brakes on. We're going to discuss that. Any prize brought into the United States and all proceedings for the condemnation of property taken as prize. Well, that's kind of funny because if you don't know law and the language, you're not really going to get it. You get it that we're under admiralty law, right? That's clear. That's clear that the jurisdiction is admiralty. That's clear, right? Okay. Saving to suitors in all cases, all other remedies to which they are otherwise entitled. That's a key part because here's where the funny twisting and trickery comes in that if you know that you're in admiralty, you still have remedies. Anybody know what those remedies are? And we're going to discuss this prize too, what the prize is, okay? Know this. We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men were created equal by God and have the right to what? Life, liberty, and happiness. And happiness is what? Property. This remedy right here is what happens over time. And I'm going to show y'all this in an older law book. What happens over time when the people continue to get more and more ignorant. They remove something right here. Can y'all guess what it is? Well, let's go do it together. This is the same code, right? 28 USC 1333, right? Admiralty, maritime, and prize cases. The district courts shall have original jurisdiction. We just read that, right? All right. Exclusive of the courts of the states. Any civil case of admiralty or maritime jurisdiction, here's the key part, saving to suitors in all cases all other remedies to which they are otherwise entitled. Well, let's go see what was removed together. The saving to suitors clause in sections 41 and 371 of Title 28 USC 1940 edition was changed by substituting the words any other remedy to which he is otherwise entitled for the words the right of a common law remedy where the common law is competent to give it. Why was it removed? Because they blended what? Law and equity. And now it's just admiralty courts. Let's go find out what a prize is. Y'all want to do that one more time? Any prize brought into the United States. Well, let's go find out what a prize is. Prize in law, a vessel, an aircraft, or goods acquired through the capture by a belligerent state. What's belligerent? It's at war. Which is subject to condemnation by a prize court. Within certain undefined limits, the nature of the legal process and the definition of condemnable vessels and goods are left by international law to national choice. I have told you time and time again within this study that what you perceive to be true and what is true are two totally different things. And now we're going to expound on that thought. George Jones sang that song, or who was that? That was Johnny Cash, old violin. The truth is the hardest thing you'll ever face. Yeah, right? Because why is the truth the hardest thing you'll ever have to face? But once the cognitive dissonance is broken, and you can actually quit looking at life through these blinders, and we quit living the lie, action can be taken to prevent those who use our own ignorance to induce harm to us. You know, some of us are a little bit older in here. Some of us are mid-age, and then some of us today are younger. But I don't know about y'all, but I have a righteous indignation within in my heart that I have been a slave my whole life, and that bothers me. That aggravates me. It aggravates me that my son is surety for some butthole's debt. And it aggravates me my daughter is a commodity traded on the stock exchange. It bothers me. While most in America has watched the public theater intended to lull every American into a state of docility, the fluoride has worked. That's the reason why you have fluoride in your water. You'll never question anything. You can't think outside the box to think of anything but your own wants. That's just the way it is. You can't think big picture because you've never thought big picture. The enemy continues extending the Patriot Act, dropping bombs, geoengineering, vaccinating innocent children, poisoning our water supply, and every other abomination. Remember that cup that whore held? And what did she say? Until that cup of abominations is full. That's what she's doing. She's filling the golden cup of abominations. Revelation 18. And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Hold on, folks. Let's read this correctly. The Uniform Commercial Code, which is the law merchant system, which is admiralty law, which is the law of the sea, is what? Universal. Every, let me restate this, folks. Every country in the world operates under this Uniform Commercial Code. Right? Mama, you know this. So let's read Revelation 18:3. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. What's the fornicating, folks? That's leaving the law of the Creator, the natural God, the laws that are inherent from here to eternity. And the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. And the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. Revelation 18:4, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. And what's iniquity, folks? Lawlessness. Now let me ask this question before we've got one more slide. I want to ask personally, each and every person in here, whether you care or don't care. How do you feel about, does it even bother you that you have been lied to your whole life, and that what you're really operating under is the same men and women and the same system of enslavement that this country tried to get away from is now, today, enslaved by it again? See, listen, folks, what you don't see today, What you don't understand, you know why on TV they up there barking and clapping compelled performance? That if you don't vaccine your kids, get your GD vaccines, everybody. If you don't send them to public school, you know why this compelled performance it goes, folks? It can in real law. You compel somebody to perform something that's a crime against that person, that individual. We're in the land of lawlessness. And how do you feel? I know one thing, I can't stand it. What a tangled web they weave when they first learn to practice to deceive. But what do they count on? And look, I'm not picking on anybody here. They count on you, and me to never read it. And so far it's worked. What you and I have learned on this journey, and yeah, so what I definitely want to do, who's the beast of the sea, folks? Who's the second beast that spoke like a lamb or looked like a lamb and then spoke as a dragon? America. I hate to tell you that. That's the truth. It gave life to the image of the beast. And that's what America is. It is filling a cup of abomination and fulfilling prophecy. That's a hard truth to come on, but the truth is that's the truth. What you and I have learned on this journey, and that's talking about all of us, it's not an easy walk, but it's been a walk of faith. I've trusted in Him to guide me to all truth. Isn't for the timid or the meek, but as we continue forward, I am less and less apprehensive about the truth. What do I mean by that? I'm less afraid of knowing the truth. Many of you here have, in times past, told me, "Hey, Brandon, it's probably time you just take a step back. Aren't you worried about your..." Yes, I'm worried. I'm worried about the future. What happens when I'm gone? If nobody learns this information, it's over with. It's all for naught. But, like all organic truth, if this catches fire and I'm up to about, 10,000 subscribers, and let me make this real clear to everybody. How long's it been since this information? Did anybody see the video I uploaded the other day from Mr. Howard Freeman? That was in 1986. He was in church houses all over this country teaching this information I just taught you. Of course, I've added a lot to it. But he was in church houses all over this country teaching this information. What's happened since that point in time? The church died. There will be those that will vehemently protect the very system which enslaved them, but just keep planting the seeds, and eventually there will come those that fall on the good ground. Ugly things were said about me last week and everything else, but that is the nature of exposing the truth. Listen, folks, when you tell somebody the truth, listen, I've done it here for the last 3 years. Each time I tell y'all something, it's first, no, that can't be. Now, that ain't the truth. That's just your opinion. Well, no, truth will eventually come once you know the truth. I hope each and every one of you that follow this channel knows what we're actually striving to accomplish here is just the narrow path. Broad and wide is the path to what? Destruction. Narrow be the path that leadeth to light. Few there be that find it. You know, that's a sad point of contention right there. Most people go to a church house thinking it's about singing and jumping around and never pick up the book themselves and read it. And not one time have I ever told y'all anything that's not in the book. It's been there. It's actually been a warning for everybody the last 2,000 years. And yet here we are still. That shows you the propensity of men to do evil acts towards other men. All you have to do is write somebody a $100 check or a $100 bill, and they'll blow your brains out. I mean, it's just crazy to me. Whether it is ever completed the way I envision within my mind or not, and of course within my mind, I have like a vision of me and my family out in the middle of nowhere living like Bear Grylls or whatever. But whether that ever actually happens or not doesn't matter to me. I'm okay with that. I know I am serving the Father in love and in truth and truly honoring. Listen, folks, honoring the grace and redemption offered. Well, let's do that word offered. You really want to accept the grace? Well, it's offered to you. But what's offered mean? Contract, covenant, terms and conditions. There's something you got to fulfill for that offer to stand valid. John 8:45, and because I tell you the truth, you believe me not. 1 John 2:4, he that saith, I know him, and keepeth not his commandments, he is a liar, and the truth is not in him. It's amazing how many of these scriptures are repeated over and over again, and we still don't get the truth. All right, friends, let's bow our heads and break this thing up. Dear Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for anointing this messenger today, guiding me to this truth. Let your word not return unto thee void, but let it accomplish that which you please and prosper in the thing where you sent it. In your precious Son's name we pray.